Hi everybody and welcome to another NUSTEM COP26 encounter. This morning we're meeting Dr. Kat Fyffe, who is a glaciologist at Northumbria University. And we'll be asking her a little bit about what she does and things she's found out about the environment. She'll also be leaving us with a big question this morning for us to answer in the class. So I'll hand over to Kat to tell us a little bit about who she is and what she does.
Great, thanks, Joe. So basically I'm a glaciologist, which means I study glaciers, but I'm also interested in the water that comes out of glaciers, which is from their melt, as well as that, how the glaciers are going to change in the future as well. And so I do that using lots of different techniques. And one of the ways is we put weather stations on the glacier to understand what the climate is like near them. It's also important to understand how the meltwater from the glaciers flows on top of and underneath the glacier as well. And so to do that, I use this really crazy colored dye. And what you can do is you put the dye on the top of the glacier, and then you can detect it in the streams that come out of the bottom of the glaciers. And that tells you how long it's taken for the water to flow through and underneath the glacier. And that's pretty interesting for us, but also helps to understand what sort of impact that meltwater is going to have in the streams downstream of the glaciers. But doing field work on glaciers is really exciting. We get to work in amazing mountainous regions like in Peru and Nepal and in the European Alps. And it's quite fun working with lots of other researchers, but also it often involves being quite high up in cold places and having to wear lots of layers. So my woolly hat gets lots of use. But I think for me, a key thing is to be able to work with local researchers and local people and to think about what the impacts are on the people downstream of glaciers that rely on that glacier meltwater.
Thank you for that answer, Kat. We are asking all our climate experts during these COP26 encounters to tell us a little bit about what they've found out about the climate. So as a glaciologist, can you let us know kind of what interesting things have you found out about climate in relation to COP26 or climate change or any of those things?
Yeah, thanks. So I think for me, a really key thing it's quite the simple fact that if your air temperatures are warmer, then glaciers melt more. And so because that happens, because there's more melt of the glaciers, over time they'll get smaller in size. And if they're shrinking, then that means that later on, even if the glaciers are still melting, there's actually less meltwater overall because they cover a smaller area. So what that means is that in the future, there'll be less water from the glaciers that's providing input into streams. And we kind of know this from a couple of ways. So first of all, it's really clear that glaciers already have shrunk. So if you look at the glacier outlines in the past and compare them with now, you can see that they've got smaller. And also that the climate has already changed. So this shrinkage of the glaciers is basically telling us that already the climate has started to change and that is what's caused the glaciers to get smaller. And also we can then look into the future to predict what we think will happen. So if you take climate models into the future, you can look at how much warmer the air temperature is going to be. And then using your models, figure out how much smaller the glaciers are going to be, and then look at how that's going to impact on the water in the rivers downstream. And so obviously for us, the end product, or what we're trying to get to, is a better understanding of how much water is going to be in the streams for people in the future. But that's based on understanding what's happened already up until now, as well as what we think is going to happen in the future.
So we're asking all our environmental experts to give us a big question, a question to answer as a class that we can talk about and get our teeth into, so that we can really think about the climate change and COP26 and understand our place within it. So I wonder, do you have a big question for us today, Kat?
Yeah, I do. So in my work, I'm really interested in how much water is in streams that's from glaciers, and how that's going to change in the future, and also what impact that might have on the people that use that water. So what I was thinking was, what do you use water for in everyday life? So can you think of all the different things that you use water for? But also, are there any ways in which there's kind of hidden water within that? So how much water is used, for example, to produce some of the favourite foods that you like to have. So maybe if you can have a think about that, I think that would be really interesting. I think the second question coming on from that would be, are there any regions in the world where climate change is having an impact already on the amount of water that people have available to them? So maybe it could be due to drought conditions. So if there's been less rainfall, or less snowfall, or through some other way in which there's less water available for people. So maybe have a look and see if you can find some examples of places in which are already being affected. I think that would be a great question to answer.
Brilliant, thank you for that, Kat. So a lovely question there for the class to really get their teeth into and have a think about. Thank you very much for coming along today to talk to us. I hope you've enjoyed it, and thank you for taking the time to speak with us today.
Yeah, it was great. Thanks, Joe.
Thank you again, Kat, for your time this morning. It was really interesting to hear about your work as a glaciologist and what you do, and also some of those that big question that you've got for us to answer today. So thank you very much, and I hope to see you all again soon with another NUSTEM COP26 encounter.